Paris held its breath at night. The curfew bell had rung hours ago, but the street still whispered, boots on cobblestone, a bicycle chain, a door that opened for no one. Elise Laurent kept to the shadowed side of Rue des Ursulines, her gloved hand steady on the handlebars, a loaf of bread tied to the basket with twine. Inside the bread was a roll of microfilm sealed in wax. She looked like any girl returning from a late errand, hair tucked beneath a navy beret, a wool coat mended at the cuffs. But the weight in her pocket wasn't coins. It was a cyanide ampoule and a tiny brass key. 2 blocks ahead, a German truck idled by the curb. An officer smoked beneath a street lamp, his breath white in the cold. Elise slowed her bicycle, let it drift into a narrow lane, and stopped in the shelter of a doorway to listen. The officer laughed at something the driver said. The laugh echoed hard and metallic. She counted to 30, then to 30 again. The truck moved on. Elise pushed off, tires humming softly. Above her, blackout curtains were stitched to sky. Somewhere, a radio whispered, a forbidden station turned down to a heartbeat. She thought of her brother in a camp whose name they no longer spoke, and the thought stiffened her spine. At the corner by Saint-Étienne, a shape emerged from the dark, a boy with quick eyes, cap pulled low. Henry. He lifted his chin, their signal for all clear, and crossed to her side with a smile too bright for this city. "You're late," he murmured. "2 patrols on the quay," she said. "And a truck with nothing to do." He glanced at the bread. Still warm. Elaborately so. They walked together, the bicycle between them. 5 doors down, a small bookshop leaned into the street like an old man, Library Vallon. The window was dressed with empty covers and dust. Inside lived an old typesetter who did not sell books and a printing press that did not print posters. Henry rapped twice, then once. The door opened a hand's width, a chain held it fast. "Elise," came the whisper. "Only me," she said. And the boy who never learned to be afraid. The chain slipped free. They entered. The smell of ink and damp paper embraced them, and the door latched behind like a sigh. Monsieur Vallon was thinner every week, his collar too big for his neck. He took the loaf with reverent hands, set it on the counter, and cut it cleanly with a hidden razor. The heel fell away, the microfilm gleamed like a small knight inside bread. "From Touraine," Elise said. "Rail schedules. 2 troop trains diverted to Chartres. Fuel wagons at Rambouillet, light guard." Vallon nodded. "Then our friends in the marshalling yard will earn their sleep." He slid the film into a tin of tea, replaced the lid, and shuffled to the back where the press waited. Its heavy flywheel glinted in lamplight like a moon. Henry followed, already rolling up his sleeves. Elise stayed near the door, listening. Far off, a motorcycle coughed, then faded. The city settled. Rain began to fall before they reached the river, thin, cold, and quiet, the kind that erased footsteps. Elise pedaled along the embankment, Henry close behind, the bicycle wheels hissing over wet cobblestone. The Seine glimmered like a strip of broken glass under the blackout sky. At Pont Saint-Michel, 2 German soldiers stood under a street lamp, rifles slung across their shoulders. "A checkpoint." Their laughter cut through the night, brittle and careless. Elise slowed, heartbeat steady. "Smile," she whispered. Henry adjusted his cap and muttered something about saints. The soldier nearest them held out a hand. "Papier." Elise stopped, balancing the bicycle with one foot. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a folded paper stamped with an eagle, and offered it with a gloved hand. Her fingers didn't tremble. The guard studied it, eyes flicking from the name to her face. "You live near Montparnasse." "Yes, Herr Lieutenant," she said, voice small, careful. "I was delivering bread to my aunt. The curfew caught me." The other soldier smirked. "At this hour?" Elise shrugged lightly. "Family. Always hungry." For a moment, no one spoke. The rain filled the silence, tapping on the bridge railings. The officer's gaze lingered a heartbeat too long, then he handed the papers back. Go home. Schnell. She smiled with polite relief and pushed off, the bicycle rolling smooth and slow. Only when they'd turned the corner did she exhale. Henry grinned, teeth white in the dark. You almost had him flirting. Flirting gets you killed faster than fear, she muttered. They rode south along the quay, past shuttered cafes and posters of smiling uniforms. The sound of the river stayed beside them, a constant whisper. At the corner of Rue des Grands Augustins, Elise stopped. This is where we split, she said. If you see the watcher again, don't look back. Henry nodded. Where will you go? The tunnels. Safer for what I carry. He hesitated, rain dripping from his cap. If you don't come out by dawn. Then burn the shop, she said. And forget my name. She watched him disappear into the narrow street, his shadow melting into others. Then she turned toward the quay stairs that led down to the river tunnels, the old catacombs used for maintenance and lately for ghosts who preferred not to be seen. At the bottom, the air was thick with moisture and the smell of stone. She lit a match, shielded it with her hand. The walls gleamed damply, painted with chalk arrows and coded marks. One pointed left marked with a small circle, the resistance symbol for safe passage. Elise followed it. Water trickled along the edge of the path, echoing like whispers in the dark. Her shoes slipped once on the wet stone and the match went out. She waited, listening. A sound drifted from above, the scrape of a boot on iron. Then another. She froze. Someone was lowering themselves into the tunnel. Elise slipped behind a stone support, heart pounding. Dawn came gray and slow, the kind of morning Paris used to save for funerals. Elise moved through the alleys like smoke, coat drenched, hair plastered to her neck. The microfilm pressed cold against her ribs beneath the lining of her coat. Every step echoed too loud in the empty streets. Her rendezvous was at a tram depot near Rue Lecourbe, a place that smelled of rust, oil, and forgotten things. She'd been told to arrive after sunrise, when the first trams rolled out and the noise could hide their words. When she reached the gate, a figure was already waiting. A man in a brown overcoat, hat tilted low. He smoked a gauloise, the ember bright in the mist. Elise Laurent, he said, as though tasting the name. His accent was French, but too smooth, like something practiced. She didn't answer. He smiled faintly. You were expected last night. Too many eyes, she said. I had company. Company. A German officer who enjoys the sound of his own boots. The man's smile vanished. He followed you. Not for long. He studied her face as if deciding how much of that he believed. The film. Elise kept her hand on the inside of her coat. You'll get it when I know who you are. He exhaled, long and patient. Your people are growing cautious. They're growing buried, she said. A tram clattered past, sparks bursting from the overhead wire. The sound filled the space between them, heavy and metallic. When it faded, he spoke again, quieter. My name is Marchand. We've met before, though you wouldn't remember. The bakery on Rue de Rennes. I paid with Reichsmarks. Elise frowned. That was you. He nodded. A test. Your eyes went straight to the mark. Most people never notice. She hesitated, then pulled the tea tin from her coat and passed it to him. If you're lying, you'll die holding that. Marchand didn't flinch. He tucked the tin into his jacket and turned toward the street. You should disappear for a few days. I can't. Valen's shop. He shook his head. They raided it before dawn. Her chest tightened. How do you know? I was there, his tone was flat. They burned the press. Valen was taken. Elise felt the world narrow. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Henry. Gone. Maybe escaped. I don't know. For a long moment, neither spoke. The city groaned awake around them, the rattle of carts, the bark of a dog, the low murmur of people pretending life was normal. Finally, she said, "Then there's no network left." Marchand's gaze met hers. "There's always a network. It just gets quieter." He started walking toward the depot doors. She followed, still numb. Inside, trams waited in rows, their windows fogged. Mechanics worked in silence, faces gray with soot. Marchand stopped beside an old maintenance car and opened the door. "You'll ride this to Montrouge. There's a safe house there. Ask for Madame Leclerc." Elise hesitated. "And you?" "I have other deliveries." She looked at him a moment longer. "If Valen talks." The safe house smelled faintly of coffee and rain. Madame Leclerc met Elise at the door, a small woman with gray hair pinned in a bun and eyes that carried too many goodbyes. "Inside, quickly," she whispered. Elise stepped in, dripping onto the wooden floor. The shutters were drawn, a single candle burned beside a chipped cup. "You're safe here," Leclerc said. "Safe?" The word had lost its meaning. "They raided Valen's shop," Elise said. "He's gone." Leclerc's shoulders slumped. "Then they are moving faster than we thought." "Who betrayed him?" Elise asked. Leclerc hesitated. "Someone inside. The Germans have a list now, couriers, meeting points, everything." The air felt heavier. Elise set the satchel on the table. "Then no one's safe." Before Leclerc could answer, there was a knock, 3 slow, 1 quick. Elise froze. "That's Marchand," Leclerc whispered. Elise drew her pistol and stepped aside. The old woman opened the door. Marchand stood in the doorway, coat slick with rain, hat pulled low. "You made it," he said, his tone almost gentle. Elise studied him. "You found me easily." He shrugged. "I followed the noise of fear." Leclerc poured him coffee. His hands trembled as he took it. "Valen's gone," he said quietly. "They burned the press. Henry escaped, but barely." Elise's throat tightened. "You saw it happen." Marchand nodded. "I tried to stop them." "Then how did you get away?" He looked at her over the cup. "Because they let me." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. Leclerc turned pale. "Then you." "Yes," Marchand said. "They had my family. I told them what they already knew." Elise's voice dropped to a whisper. "And now they want me." He didn't answer. Outside, an engine idled, then another. Elise crossed to the window. 2 black cars had stopped at the corner, their headlights dimmed. "They are here," she said. Marchand stood. "Give me the film. I can fix this." She met his eyes. "You can't fix ghosts." He reached for her arm. "Elise, please." The pistol barked once. Marchand staggered back, hand pressed to his coat, surprise frozen on his face. Leclerc gasped. "What have you done?" "What I had to," Elise said. They were already dead. Through the window, soldiers began shouting. Boots splashed through puddles. Elise picked up her satchel. "Tell them nothing." Leclerc caught her sleeve. "Where will you go?" "Where they can't listen." She slipped out the back door into the rain, coat clinging to her shoulders, pistol hidden beneath it. The street shimmered under the lamps. Behind her, the cars screeched to a stop. Voices barked orders in German. Elise turned down an alley, the city unfolding around her like a maze of wet stone and secrets. When she reached the quay, she stopped beneath the bridge and looked out at the Seine. The river moved black and slow beneath the lights,